So before you get started on your actual final double exposure, we are going to do a practice double exposure as well, just using the same image just to get familiar with the process, specifically in Photoshop. So in the assignment, I have some different images here. Both portraits right now are black and white, just because I figured that was a good example to show. And then I have also two other examples that I can expose on top of them, okay? So whatever portrait you first choose, let's say if I choose this image right here, what you will be able to do is under more actions, you can open in a new window. And we are going to just save this image directly into the computer. So in order to download an image, this little icon of an arrow, you'll be able to download right there. And it also might show up down here on downloads. So what I like to do personally is, again, make sure that you have, you're going to make sure that you have your folder first off on your desktop. So like that. And then what you can do is simply click and drag the image into your folder. Okay. So the next step is in Photoshop. What you can actually do is you can click and drag it to open it in Photoshop. Just like that. Okay, perfect. So here I have my image. Now something you want to be careful of is some of the images, if they are black and white already, is you want to check an image mode. And you always want to double check because sometimes black and white images might be grayscale. If their mode is grayscale, it will not allow for you to actually add color. If you don't want color, that's totally fine. But I always like to make sure RGB color is an option as well, okay? So once I have this over here, I can now decide what image I want to put on top of this, okay? Because remember, double exposure is essentially two layers of images, one on top of the other. So in Google Chrome now, I'm going to look at my other two. So here I have a flower, or here I also have this skull that I took a photo of, okay? I really like this one, so I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to open a new window, and I'm going to download it directly into my computer. So wait for it to load. Download. And then the same as before, I'm going to just click and drag and drop it in like that. So now in Photoshop, in here, I'm going to click and drag just to drop it right on top like that. Perfect. When you drop it in, you can control the size of the image just like so. And when you're done resizing it, you're going to click on the check mark. Confirm, commit, transform, basically. Okay. So as we can see right now, this image is fully blocking the image below it. So I now have to go to my blend mode. My blend mode on this current layer is simply normal. What I can do is I click on it and I have all these different options. So as I hover my mouse over, I'm not clicking anything, I can actually preview what it looks like right now. So these sections right here of darken, multiply, color burn, linear burn, and darker color tend to be darker versus lighten are much lighter. Okay. You also can play with overlay, soft light. So I'm just kind of finding one that I like best right now. I probably wouldn't do any of these because I think they're too intense. So I kind of liked screen. So what I can do in addition to the screen is on this option right here, if I do Command T, if I hold my mouse outside of the image, this little arrow with a curve appears. And what I can do is I can actually then kind of mess around with rotating my image and seeing where it best lines up. So if I wanted to mess around with that, I can also kind of lower it down here. And I can go bigger or smaller. But this I like pretty well. Something else I can play with is, along with the blend mode, is the opacity of the layer. So right now it's at 100. If I lower the opacity of this layer, I'll slowly be able to see more and more of the image below it, like that. So as I'm doing this, maybe I don't like screen anymore. I can go back to another option as well. I kind of like color burn is pretty cool. And again, just sort of mess around with again, I can mess around then with the placement. And it's a lot of just sort of like finessing different things. Just kind of messing around with different options. Okay, so let's say I like that best. And then the final steps I can now take are in my adjustments. I can now kind of mess around with the brightness and contrast of my image. Maybe if I wanted to, I could also make the whole image black and white. But for me personally, I kind of miss that color, so I'm going to undo that. You can also play around a little bit with color balance. If you remember, that's kind of increasing the reds or the blues in an image. Like that. And then once you're happy with an image, you would simply click on File, Save. Always save on your computer. I'm going to make sure that I'm saving it right now in my folder. Always double check. And this is just Self-Portrait 1, PSD, click Save. And then all you have to do now is post what you created. And that's sort of the basic way of doing a double exposure in Photoshop.